Hi everyone, I'm Icaro and welcome to the channel. Today I want to have a little fun with you, and I was on Reddit and on tarot forums and things like that, and I saw someone post a bunch of questions, kind of prompts about decks that you have and what's on your collection basically. So I kind of want to go through today and show you guys some stuff. So the first question is a deck that you want to use but haven't yet. So mine is the Tree of Life Oracle. I like this deck. If you are a tarot newbie, or if you're still kind of afraid of tarot, I actually would recommend this deck, the Tree of Life Oracle, because it has the 22 major arcana in here. For example, look at the devil. He looks nothing, well, some, right? Like the devil in the tarot. And it also has, so here's a Tree of Life, right? So it's gonna have about 3 or 4 Tree of Lives like this. They're different aspects. And then each sphere, or sephiroth as they're called, you're gonna get them. So there's about 10 of them, which they correspond to the 10 minor cards in the tarot. This is number 9, so it's gonna correspond to the 9s. This is Temperance. We have the Path of Strength. So I love this deck, but I use tarot. So when I am pulling cards from my tarot deck, for example, here's Death, I have my Tree of Life. So then I go to where Death is and I see their relation. I haven't yet. I want to, and I feel like I've done it a few times and it just kind of added too much to the reading for me, at least yet. I haven't gotten rid of this deck yet, and I don't want to, because it has, I believe it has a lot to teach me. But since I already used the tarot, I can already associate the tarot card with its placement on the tree. I'm not necessarily using this deck to do the same thing. But perhaps I just haven't found a use for it yet. Like I said, it's still in my collection. I don't see it leaving anytime soon. This is number 5, so it has to, number 5, Gabora Severity. It's got to do with the 5, with all the 5s of the tarot. This is the Emperor. So like I said, if you don't want to take the leap to tarot yet, I would say this deck is actually quite good. For that, to kind of take away some of the scariness of the tarot that perhaps you're still apprehensive with. So the next question is the 12th deck from the right on your shelf. And I thought that's a fun question. The 12th tarot just happened to be the Oracle Belline. This is a French deck, actually from 1845. I love these vintage decks. This one is a smaller, deck. That's actually how it is. I know modern creators, some French modern creators are creating decks like this one with the tarot size, but originally it's smaller like this. I forget how many cards are on here, but it has associations with the planets, with the 7 classical planets, and it's got keywords. I love this vintage style artwork. I don't know, it's just so fun to me, and like it speaks to me in different ways. So as you can see, here is Mercury, we've got the moon, another moon, we got, I believe that's Jupiter. I always confuse Jupiter and Saturn. Every time. No, that's Saturn, this is Jupiter. Right. I don't know. I've been having a lot of fun using this deck. I haven't done like a full reading with it. Usually I pull 1 or 2 as clarifiers, but I'm really just in love with how much this deck really speaks. I got it on Etsy. Relatively inexpensive. It's a smaller, like I said, it's a smaller deck, but I love it. I love the vintage decks, really. So our next question is a deck that you're thinking about rehoming. For me, it's the Oracle of Heaven and Hell. Now, I don't have the occult tarot. I don't have the angelic tarot. When this deck came out, I thought, perfect. I can kind of get 2 in 1. I love that they are reversals, and I love this idea of heaven and hell because I'm a shadow worker. I work with tarot, and the way I see demons, for example, is just a shadow aspect of the self. I don't see it as evil entities. Same thing with angels. I don't see them as light beings. I see them more as virtues that we strive to, right? Demons to me are more about self-knowledge, and angels to me are more about virtues that we want to attribute. Now, a few things about this deck in particular. So I love the way it looks. I think it's beautiful. I love the box and its presence on my shelf. But you have to grab it from the center here or from the bottom. Sometimes I don't do that. Sometimes I make the mistake of grabbing from the top, and the top comes out and the deck stays. I understand the design of it, and I know it's my fault. It's a user error on grabbing from the top, but sometimes you just forget, right? So it's got all these parts to it. You have a ribbon, I love that. Here's the disappointment of this deck, the guidebook. The cardstock is fine. I love the edges, this shiny red. I think it's beautiful. And I like the artwork. The artwork is fun. I believe the red here is when it's a demon, and then the other side it's in black where it's an angel. Now the keywords here, it's funny, there are 72 cards, and the keywords, I find them a little bit limiting. I've used it. I have used it without the guidebook. I've used just the deck, and I like it. There's something interesting about it. I can take the keywords and expand on them on my own. But I will say this, the guidebook really is a disappointment. Because it will tell you, for example, when you pull here, the angel is on top, the demon is on the bottom. When you pull an angel, it'll give you a little psalm from the Bible. I'm okay with that. And it'll tell you what the name of the angel means in Hebrew usually. So Aladia is a cherubim, and it says the favorable God. But then it goes like he's the sole guardian of those born between 3 a.m. and 3:20 a.m. Very specific. Moral guardian of those born on March 29th, June 9th, August 20th, October 31st, or January 11th. And a physical guardian of those born between May 4th and May 8th. And then the only paragraph you have giving you the message of Aladia is, people born under this angel's influence enjoy good health, are happy in their enterprise, and esteemed by those who know them and frequent sophisticated societies. Aladia protects those guilty of hidden crimes, governs rage and pestilence, and cures diseases. And the keyword is divine grace. I'm a bit of a loss for words because the little paragraph was fine, but it doesn't necessarily give me a message that I can work with. And I wouldn't associate all of that with divine grace. I would, but I would also associate a lot of other things with divine grace. And the soul guardian, moral guardian, and physical guardian, those are interesting things as well, because you kind of want to look for your birth date, right, and your birth time, and see who is your guardian angel and your demon and your guardian demon. But the messages don't give that much. And then, for example, the demon on the same card, this is number 10 if you have the deck with you, is Ur. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly, and he's a president. Right? Apparently there's also legions of demons that are presidents and kings and other things, marquises, earls, princes, and dukes, and I'm sure others as well. So this one says, servants of those born between May 4th and May 8th. Okay. And then the keyword, or the paragraph says, the 10th spirit, Ur, is a great president who appears in Sagittarius, which is his shape when the sun is there. He teaches philosophy, both moral and natural, and the logic arts and the virtues of all herbs and plants. He heals all distempers in men and gives good familiars. Ur governs 50 legions of spirits and demands obedience, which you must adopt when calling him forth to appear. And the keywords are laziness and neglectfulness. Once again, I feel like the paragraphs, they teach you a little bit about who the angel and the demon are, and that's fine. I love that. But I personally also would like another paragraph that relates to a message that's telling me something. Hey, watch out for, like divine grace, give others kindness, forgiveness, if that's the thing, right? Or laziness and neglectfulness. I'm not so sure that related to the paragraph that we read here, because it talks about how Ur is a great president, associated with Sagittarius, teaches philosophy, moral and natural, the logic arts, and the virtues of all herbs and plants. How does that relate to laziness and neglectfulness, right? I guess if I neglect the plant, it will die, but what am I neglecting in my life, right? So the keyword on the card itself makes more sense to me than the guidebook does. So when I first got this deck, I used it a few times. It was fine. It took me a while, to be honest with you, to like learn how to work with it, because I kept going to the guidebook. I think as we all do, when you buy a new deck, you go to the guidebook. At least I do. I love guidebooks. And I was like, this is telling me nothing. Like, it's not teaching me anything. But when I just used the deck, I was like, okay. It gave me some critical thinking, I think. I had to, when I got the keyword, I was like, all right, perhaps I'm not fully seeing what you mean, but I can kind of, maybe through some journaling, stretching the imagination, I can maybe see it. It was, to be honest with you, it was very few times that this deck made sense and it grabbed my attention and it said something in a reading to me. So unfortunately, it's still here. I'm not exactly rehoming it just yet, but it is one I'm thinking about rehoming. Another question that I saw was a deck that you don't store in the original box. And that would be my original Thoth deck. I don't store it in the original box because I have the big box, the green, bigger box, and that deck is huge. It's a bit too much to handle. So what I did is, because I know this deck so well, I trimmed it. I just took the thick borders and I trimmed all the way around, showing all of its beautiful colors. I think it's such a beautiful deck. So yeah, I just like trimmed it, trimmed the borders to let the artwork really speak. And also it makes it a lot easier to handle because now it's a good size. Here's the RWS that I have, the classic, with the checkered back. It's actually a little bit smaller than the RWS, but a little bit wider as well. So if you are someone that loves the Thoth, but you're afraid that it's too big, also, I don't like the smaller boxes, to be honest with you, especially for Thoth, because the border of the Thoth is so thick. It's not a thin border like this one. This one's just a thin white border. It doesn't really bother me. But these decks, they come with a thick border. So when you buy the smaller version, there is a version that's this size. But the artwork is much smaller because the border is so thick. So if you're okay mutilating a deck, I would say get the green box and trim the border. You will be happy that you did. Even though you're not gonna get like the keywords or anything, but I don't know, in my opinion, it makes it just a really beautiful, it is a beautiful deck, but it just pops. So that's the deck that I don't keep in the original box. And the final question is a deck that has more or less than 78 cards. So 78 is the traditional tarot that's gonna have 78 cards, but this is decks that have more or less. Now, of course, I had to show the Lenormand. I am learning the Lenormand little by little. It's definitely complex. It's interesting because it has 36 cards, if you don't know. And it's just symbols, basically, depending on the artwork that you get, but it's just symbols. You have the ring. This is, I believe, the fox. You have the sun, the lady, the birds, so the gentleman on this one. So all these symbols, they have a few keywords. Like tarot, you can go so deep. You can go so much into the tarot. But this one, each card only has a few keywords. So you never really pull only one card from the Lenormand. You pull at least 3 to 5 to 9. 9 you do a box spread, and then actually those that really know how to read Lenormand will do what's called a grand tableau, and they will pull all 36 cards. And then you connect them, you see where they're at, you see how they relate to each other. So it's really, you're kind of building a sentence with these cards. So from 36 cards, it's a very complex system. So I'm very patiently learning this system. I have this vintage copy that I think is beautiful. I love vintage decks. Of course, as I showed the Oracle Belline earlier, I love vintage decks. But of course, there's a lot more modern decks out there if you're interested in learning Lenormand. If tarot is not your thing, Lenormand might be. I kind of associate this with like the original, almost like this is the original Oracle. I believe it's from, oh gosh, I think the original print was 1799. So quite vintage, right? Quite vintage and quite prior to the tarot as we know it from the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Of course, there's older tarots in 1789, but it's prior to the Hermetic Order. All right, guys, so those are the questions that I got online. Hopefully you enjoyed and learned a little bit more about different decks and how they speak to me. Maybe you like some of the way they look. I definitely recommend doing your research when it comes to decks. Look at deck reviews online, see how people love, see how people hate, see how they speak to you in different ways. Because the one thing about buying decks is that like you only know if they speak to you until you get them. And then if they don't speak to you, it's too late. You can't really return it, you know, from a crystal shop or anything. All right, guys. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.